I want to say we're so pleased tonight to welcome Senator Melissa Hurtado, who is running for Congress in California's 22nd congressional district. Melissa is the youngest woman ever elected to the California State Senate. She defeated an incumbent Republican in 2018 by a very narrow margin, which is something to be incredibly proud of. She grew up in the Central Valley. Melissa has a strong record of delivering for her constituents. And prior to running for state senate, she served as a city council member and also worked as a healthcare advocate. This is her first time running for Congress. Please join me in welcoming Melissa Hurtado. Melissa, let me turn it over to you for opening comments.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone, for being on this call. I know that you've had busy and long days and you're taking time out of your busy schedule to hear from me, and I really appreciate that. Look, I want to be straightforward and say that we are facing a time unlike any other. And I've had the honor of serving in the state senate for the last 5 years, but I really see a need, not just for the Central Valley, but for our country to have leaders that get elected to Congress that have courage, because really, not just my constituents, but across the nation, people are really feeling that this country is losing its democracy. And I want to share with you why that is important to me. And my background, my mother and my father came to the United States, came to California in search of a better life. They came here from Mexico. They struggled there with food insecurity. They faced, extreme drought, and they wanted to search for a better life, better opportunities. And they heard that here in the Central Valley, that here in California, that's where you reach the American dream, that you could essentially become rich without, so long as you work hard. And in the Central Valley, we know that poverty it's much too real. The Central Valley has historically been one of the most impoverished regions in the nation. And so people, it doesn't matter what your background is, what you look like, what your education level is, poverty is very much real here. And that's been real to me. It's been real to my parents who came here from Mexico. They found the American dream here, but that is becoming more and more difficult to achieve for people across the state of California and across this country. And so now more than ever, we can't rely on just misinformation that's being spread or divisions. We need to be united. We need to work together to solve the issues, not just of today, but the issues of tomorrow as well. And so I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you for the opportunity once again.
Melissa, thank you so much. And really also thank you for just making the effort, because we had set up a meeting with you before you got stuck. I think it was in Dubai, and which just the fact that you were even working with the logistics to try to make that meeting was really impressive. We're so glad that you made the effort and we were able to speak with you. I would love to start out by asking you to just tell us a bit about the district. What is California 22 like? What should activists understand? And what do the voters there care most about?
Well, look, the Central Valley, it's a place that's very much unique. Congressional District 22 is very unique. Here we have a majority of registered voters that are Democrat. I think that a lot of people are like, well, the turnout. If we had higher turnout, then we would be able to flip this district. Well, I feel personally that you have to be able to reach people's hearts, and the people of this region have to be able to trust you, that you're going to do the right thing no matter how difficult it is to take that position. And if they feel that you are being honest, that you're being sincere, and that you're looking out for them, that's who they go with. They don't go with if you're a Democrat or a Republican. They go with what's how they feel about you and what you're saying, and if you're actually acting on what you're saying. And so I feel that I've been able to reach voters across the aisle for that same. I flipped the district back in 2018. In 2022 for my Senate reelection, which has about, I think it's like 94% overlap with the congressional district. I won it by 13 votes. Really, it was a year where I should have lost. But what it told me is that that I picked up Republican support, I picked up independent support, and that's what got me across the finish line in my reelection for state Senate. This was in an area where other Democrats didn't win. And I was able to do that because when I talk to my voters, when I work on issues related to this region, I work on what we all care about, which is access to clean water, access to clean air, improving our air quality, access to healthcare, making sure that we have jobs, making sure that we're working on our infrastructure. These are all things that I've not only had conversations with them about, but that I've actually delivered on them. And so I don't talk about whether they're Republican or a Democrat or an independent. I talk about what's important to this region. And so far, it's been good for me. So, the district, again, it's very much about what you're saying, what you're looking to do for this region, and if they can trust you. If the trust is not there, forget it. It's not going to happen. Doesn't matter if you're in the majority or in the minority or whatever your party is, they have to trust you. You have to be here. They don't like our region. We don't like to be told from DC or Sacramento, this is who is going to be your representative. And so Republicans vote Democrat, Democrats vote Republican. It's just a mixture. You can't rely solely on the party registration. You have to reach people's hearts and the issues that are most important to them. And we all have that in common here.
So it's really more about personal connection and less about labels, it sounds like.
Yeah,
in
essentially,
part.
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. That's what it's all about. But really, again, they know that also by what you say, right? If you're talking about something that's on the national news, well, they're not going to care about that because it's not relevant per se in this region. They want to, if you talk about water quality or if you talk about access to water, that's something they're going to care about. And the way that you speak on this issue and how you plan on executing and delivering for this region on that issue, that's what's going to make a difference.
So you mentioned that you won re-election last year by just 13 votes, which is I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody who came up
It was historic.
and then won, and then won, which is obviously what everybody, loves to hear. As Patty pointed out, Rudy Salas lost to David Valadao by just over 3,000 votes. So it was very close there too. If you're selected in the primary, what are you going to do differently to take in Valadao? What's the secret to within those narrow margins to getting over the top?
Well, look, this is very much a purple district, right? You have a Republican that has been reelected over and over and over again, and people are wondering, like, well, why? And it's because people trust him. He speaks to the issues that people feel that are important to them. And so what distinguishes me from the other candidates? Well, I mean, look, we're all going to talk about water. We're all going to talk about food security. We're going to talk about the issues that are important to the district. But I'm the only one that has delivered on water. David Valadao has not delivered on water. Even when he was in the state legislature, I can't really think of anything that he's accomplished in terms of saying, well, I got X amount of money for water. And that's the number one key issue here. I've delivered on that. And so that's the difference between me the other Democrat in this race and also the Republican. And like I said, that's a widely and deeply felt issue that stretches beyond party lines. The other thing is that what distinguishes me from the other candidates and the incumbent is that I always, I'm a little stubborn, and I think that's a good thing, honestly. If I feel that something is right, or if I feel that something is wrong, I stand up and I say it and I tell it like it is. The constituents really appreciate that. And while, if it's a legislative ask or a budget ask or calling something out that's wrong, not every war is won, right? When you're working in the area of policy and budget. But if you continuing and you're persistent, change eventually comes. It may be incremental, it may be drastic, but change comes. And so it's really important that a leader is that we elect a person to Congress from this district that has the courage to stand up for what is right, no matter what the issue is or who. I mean, there's been situations where I've been the only person that has voted, no on an issue when all Republicans and Democrats have aligned and said, hey, we're going to move this forward. That's the difference between me and the other candidates. I'm not afraid to stand up for this district. I'm not afraid to do what is in the best interest of the people. And you got to have leadership skills. You got to be outspoken if you want to create positive change for your community. And that's the difference between myself and the other candidates in this race.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for making that distinction, I think, and making it so clearly. One of the things that we had heard, Patty referenced interviewing candidates. In some cases, we talked to campaign managers last year about the previous year's election to try to find out, what could we do better? And one of the things that we heard that was kind of a success story was, it was really important to define the opposition early on and to really make that stick. And one of the things that Valadeo's been good at, it seems, is coming across as more moderate than he actually is, in part because of what you were just saying. So what I just heard you say was, I'm willing to take tough positions and I will do it because I think it's right.
Right.
And Valadeo did, I think he voted for the second impeachment, right? So he did do that. But pretty much everything else, I mean, if you vote for David Valadeo, is a vote for part of the Republican monolith, right? The MAGA folks in Congress. How do you get that across to folks in district? What's your tactic for letting them know this guy is not actually going to be on your side if in fact he's voting with Republicans all the time and they're not voting to help you? Because it sounds like he's not really standing apart. How do you make that case?
Well, look, the case to be made is very simple. Really, it's not just about voting for what's politically in your best interest. It's about voting for what's in the best interest of the constituents that you represent. And if you do that, even if it means going against your own party, you have to step up and do it. I mean, if you look at the historic bipartisan infrastructure bill, you didn't support that. There's a lot of funding for water infrastructure in there, and that's something that's very much of interest here in this region. We have communities that go without water in the summer. They don't have the ability to open the faucet to wash their hands or to take a shower. Imagine that. And you're going to vote for something because either your leadership doesn't agree with it. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. You have to stand up even if it's against your own party, not just when it's politically convenient, also when it's in the best interest for your district, because that's what leadership is all about. That's why look, for me, it's all about being an effective leader. I wanted to deliver I ran for state senate to deliver for the region and for the communities in it, because we didn't have basic infrastructure on water, for public safety. And I knew that from my experience as a council member. Now, as a state senator, I've been delivering, and I'm not 100% happy with every vote that I've taken. Just last year, we did an infrastructure package. I wasn't 100% happy with it, but I voted for it because I wanted to maximize the dollars and the opportunities and the investments in the district that I represent. And that's what leaders do. They take tough positions and they deliver for their communities. And my pitch to Congressional District 22 is, you want a leader that's effective, not a leader that's going to run scared.
Got it. And is that resonating so far with voters? Or are you able to get across to them that Valadela is not really standing up for them?
All you have to do is that, no, we could do a better job, right? Like I said, I think that part of the challenge is that we're not reaching voters and saying, you need a leader that's in the best interest for you, that's an effective leader for you. That's not being said, right? I think the attacks have been on like, well, he did this or he did that. Again, national issues that are not really, like, the constituents here don't care about, right? That don't resonate. And so when you talk about the issues that resonate with the constituents and how he's been opposed to it, then I think it will make a difference.
So it's basically telling a news story that maybe that's something that they haven't heard as much of.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
You could be an honest person, a good person, and you could care about this region and people can trust you, but you also have to be effective at what at the job that the people elected you to do. And that's where Valadeo fails constituents. He's failing constituents in delivering for them.
Right. Yeah. And you know, you've said that the things that really matter to folks are particularly water in the district. I think you also mentioned education and healthcare and safety as being really important in your website. And of course, your accomplishments as a state legislator, excuse me. In the places where Democrats overperformed in 2022, tended to be outside of California and in fact, outside of New York. And it seemed to be in places where they felt kind of most threatened, that they were more concerned about things being taken away, whether it was reproductive rights or the right to vote. There were purple states where fundamental rights seemed to be on the ballot. And one of the interpretations of the lower turnout, and it wasn't just in your district, it was California-wide. In California, was that people felt a little bit safer and it wasn't as critical to them to vote. What's your take on that? Does that apply to your district? How do you read those results, and how would they influence the way that you campaign in the general if you get through the primary?
My understanding is that this region was completely different than the rest of the country in terms of the role that reproductive rights played in the election. Again, reproductive rights is not an issue that's going to turn people out in this region. It's going to be issues that are the most important to them: water, cost of food, the cost of their energy. These are all things that they care about. What they care about, their pocketbook. And if we're not talking about those, then we're talking to the national issues. And I understand, right, that it's some of these national issues that bring in money to campaigns, but it's not resonating with this district. And I think the reason why I won my reelection in this region when other Democrats lost is because I spoke to the issues that are most important to this region.
So at the same time, turnout was pretty low as you saw in your district, and was low in other districts as well. Um, what are ways that that could be turned around? What's it going to take to get more voters engaged in the election and willing to show up?
Well, look, as I kind of stated earlier, we can go in and say we need to register more Democrats, and then we're hoping that Democrats turn out and vote Democrat. And as I said, this congressional district in this region, just because you're a registered Democrat or because you turn a Democrat out to vote does not mean they're going to vote Democrat, down the ballot. They vote with their hearts. They vote with who they think is going to be their best representative. So, and I saw this firsthand, right? When as we were doing going through the recount in my reelection, it just not every Republican vote went to the Republican. There was some that came to me. There was some Democratic ballots or areas that were not necessarily voting for me. They're voting for was favorable to the Republican. So again, it's the message has to be clear and it has to be direct, and it has to reach across party lines, because again, they don't just in this region we don't vote down the ballot. That's the nature of it.
Sounds like it's really more about personal the personal qualities or the relationship that you're able to form with them.
Well,
Uh,
yes, in part that it is, right? I mean, it's do they know you? Have they seen you in the community? What high school did you go to? Are you related to, this family or that family? There's smaller communities, and our families go, they've been here for some time, or they're connected to another family, or seem like it's really it's do they know you? Are you from this region? What are your values? Are your values connected to this region? And if they're not, I mean, that it makes it that much more difficult.
So one of the things that we've been told is that climate is a litmus test for younger voters in particular, that they're more attuned to the dangers the climate crisis is bringing, and they're thinking more about it for their future. Um, and California 22, I think nearly 1 in 4 are not yet registered, but maybe could be. Again, not being a Democrat or Republican, but around that issue. What are your positions on climate and whether it's related to climate or not? What are you doing to engage younger voters in particular, ones who may be so young even that they didn't vote for you initially in 2018, right? That they're new to voting.
Well, I will say that I'm the only candidate in this race that has been to a climate conference. Actually, the last time I was not able to get on this Zoom call, it was because I was in Dubai at the climate conference. And so I feel that I am able to reach younger voters. I mean, I was the youngest woman ever elected to the California State Senate. I'm just going to put my age out there, but I'm 35 years old. So I feel that there is an appeal as it is to younger voters, but I'm the only one that's also talking about climate change. I've gone to the climate conference. I've worked on climate change issues. I've taken some tough votes in the legislature. My policies, they're climate related, they're climate change issues. When you talk about water security or clean water or clean air, those are climate change issues. And I've been very successful at messaging it so that it makes sense not only for just for younger voters, but also that it resonates with independents and Republicans, right? And it's a lot of it, it's also conversation, right? And making sure that like, hey, this issue that we're having, this water crisis issue that we're having, that's a climate change issue. And so I've been doing, it's taken me some time to get the messaging right and making sure that that my message resonates across, party lines and age and demographics. But I feel like it's been working. And so climate change is a real threat. And the Central Valley, we're at the forefront of we're at the forefront of the issues. When we talk about our families going without water, that's climate change. That's climate change right there. So that's something that I have my little niche of where I focus in on climate change issues, and it's food security. And I'll continue to be a leader in this space. I also, in the state Senate, I chair the Senate Agriculture Committee. This is an area an issue area that's important to the region, and I'm taking it on in a different way as a climate change issue, because that's what it is. So I think that I can appeal to I have been appealing to those younger voters and did very well in making sure that we did the best we could to turn them out, but we could always do a better job.
Mhm. Well, and it sounds like you've got a message that could be very appealing to them as well, and that you're obviously really engaged in it. There have been recent reports, I guess it goes back over the last few weeks, probably back to the beginning of the holidays or thereabouts, that President Biden, quote, is willing to support a new border authority to expel migrants without asylum screenings, as well as dramatic expansion of immigration detention and deportations to convince Republicans to back aid to Ukraine. That's alarming to a number of folks, and I'm wondering what your reaction is to that kind of compromise. And if you were serving in Congress now, how would you vote on a bill that includes that kind of legislation?
Look, it's difficult to take a position on something like
It is
that.
a hypothetical, sure.
It's a hypothetical, right? And I always tell folks, it's all in the details. And again, there's right and there's wrong. And obviously, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with this election? It could really go, this upcoming election could really go bad. And it could very well get worse come November or post-November. So again, I think that it's important to look at the details of the language that is being put in there. Obviously, we have some real issues at the border. Being the daughter of immigrants, I believe that this country is the place that everybody wants to come to because of immigrants. Immigrants make this nation, what it is. But we also have to be real and honest that there are some challenges as well, and we have to figure out how to solve those challenges and making sure that we have the right solution, one that that is not extreme on any end.
You're looking for a balanced
It's about balance.
solution that would be right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. You would be the first Latina elected to Congress from the Central Valley, I believe. Is that right? Can
And
you
I'm the
tell us
only woman running too.
exactly? Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means to you and what you think it means to voters?
That's such a. I think that to voters in the Valley, again, there's a lot of we have Latinos that are Republicans, Latinos that are independents, and just voters in general. I think they know my story. They know that I'm real. They know that I'm looking out for them. They know that as the only woman running in this race, they know how difficult it is for me to, take front and center. But they also know that they love me for that reason, right? Because I just don't say, okay, I'm gonna give up now. And it's not in my character to give up. It's in my character to fight, because I'm not just fighting for the district, I'm fighting for my family too. because my family lives here. I live here. And I feel that they feel they trust me. I think that they also they feel proud as well. I mean, I did a parade, uh, the Veterans Parade in the city of Porterville, and I was a little bit shocked, honestly, because I had my mom in the car with me, and it's a pretty conservative, it's a pretty conservative town, but I'll tell you that driving through the parade, it was just groups of people just clapping on the left side and on the right side, and of all different, different backgrounds. And so it was really, I felt really good. Wasn't expecting the level of support out in the community, but it's there, and and I really appreciate it. And I think that they're proud of, I feel voters are proud of me.
That's got to be such a great feeling. And yeah, I need a real picture. That's wonderful.
I'll
Um,
share one with y'all
I,
later.
I wanted to circle back to something you said in the very beginning in your opening remarks, because you said, you were making the case for why this election is important. For I'm putting some words into your mouth, so correct me if I'm not exactly right about it, but kind of for the survival of our country, right? The democracy is on the line here.
It really is.
Um,
Mhm.
and yet that also, that per se isn't about water or healthcare or even food security. It's about an issue that's maybe a little more abstract, but also perhaps larger than any of those particular issues. How do you get that across to voters? How do you let them know really what the stake is in this election?
Oh, I absolutely believe that it's all about water security. I look, we spoke earlier or touched on climate change and how that's a threat to mankind, right? But when you break it down, what does that mean? What does climate change mean? Why is it that we're all trying to figure this out? And when you break it down, it means that, water security. I mean, that water is we're just in a more water insecure world. And that means that resources are more limited. That means that food could be more limited. It's going to be more limited under climate change. And 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 that's that we really have to paint the picture of what these threats are and what all goes into them, right? What goes into it is that there begins to be, fights. Um, there's a lot of geopolitics, right? You begin to see who's a bit of competition towards who's going to control these resources, who's going to be the next, global leader in times of challenges. And I really, that's what I see, right? That democracies around the world are under attack, and climate change is driving that. And it's about, breaking it down for people to understand that that's what it is, that's what it's doing, and what it's creating. It's also creating global, corruption, and we have to tackle it. We have to tackle corruption. And it's not, corruption is not something that happens in some strange faraway land. Corruption happens in the US as well, and it's growing, and we got to stop it.
And how do you make the link to from so that I think you knit that together really well, right? That there's absolutely local impact. Um, how do you make the case that your opponents, and I don't mean your Democratic opponent, but your Republican opponent, um, is on the wrong side of that? That they are actually on the side of uh, you know, kind of the climate malefactors, I guess, or the bad guys in the climate crisis, as well as on the side of corruption. How do you get that across to people?
Well, I think it's, again, breaking it down and explaining it to individuals. but also just again, speaking to how the incumbent has been on the wrong side of these issues that are, looking to bring transparency and to counter these attacks. I mean, we can't. I mean, as my representative, I don't know where he stands, honestly. I don't know where he stands. And that, if I have a problem with that, right? Like, I don't know where he stands on this. And if I'm, in politics, if I'm an elected official and I don't understand where he stands, I mean, I think that's something that needs to be given out to voters. I mean, people have to ask the tough questions. They're asking me the tough questions. Those questions need to be asked of him because we don't know where he stands.
Yeah,
And that's a big problem for all of us.
got it. One of the things that we heard from many candidates, from the last cycle, was that they just came under vicious attack by Republicans, and in many cases, attacks that were well-funded, were dishonest, in some cases, like, breathtakingly dishonest, but also relentless. Um, you know, assuming that you're getting through to the general, how do you fend those off? What do you do to repel that kind of nonsense?
Well, I mean, I've kind of been used to this since the very beginning, because when I ran for state senate in 2018, I ran against a Republican incumbent that Democrats struggled to get out. And again, and I remember saying this about the Republican then. I said, look, so and so Senator Vidak, nice guy, people like him, he's friendly, but what has he done? And so I think that, again, that's one piece of it. But we really got, I mean, I really think we got to bring that out. And the attacks have been very similar from 2018 to 2022. And I'm sure that in 2024, they're going to be very much the same. And they're going to be attacks again on issues that are most important to the district, which are water. People know where I stand on water. People know where I stand on water. They're gonna say that I don't support public safety officers. Well, have been the biggest advocate and champion for public safety infrastructure and for public safety officers in the region. I've delivered over $60 million for public safety infrastructure for our communities. No one in this region has been able to accomplish that, or half of that I'm aware of. So I know what the attacks are going to be. I've been through them, and I think that the voters know better. I just think that the voters don't want to see another. They weren't too happy about the election 2022 with Valadeo and Salas like attacking each other every day on the TV. I mean, I think a lot of voters made up their mind early, but I think voters are looking for change, and I think more than anything, they want someone that is going to be effective. And I like, as I always say, I trust the voters here that they're going to ultimately make the right call. But yes, but that I got to put in some work, right? I can't just leave it up to Faith here. I have to be able to work, and of course, I know where the attacks will be, so I'm prepared for those, and I I have the case. I've delivered, so I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
you've seen it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I hear you saying, I've seen that before. I'm not a stranger to this stuff. I've defeated an incumbent before, and I did it in part by saying, "Look, what has he done for you?" And you know, not enough
And I
was the
got
answer. And I,
exactly.
yeah,
And I got bipartisan support. Yeah, I have council members, elected officials, firefighters that are not they're Republicans, independents, and Democrats they're supporting me. So again, those arguments, they don't stick.
yeah. Listen, I've got one final question and then we'll wrap. But it's one of the things that I noticed when I was, doing research and reading your website was that your website isn't bilingual, and I was wondering why you don't have a Spanish, both English and Spanish in your website, and how that plays out for you in terms of your campaigning.
You're referring to my campaign website?
Yes,
It's
yeah,
very
sorry,
simple.
to the
Money.
campaign
I
website.
need more money. I need to raise more money. That plain and simple, that's what it gets to. Latino voters, I speak Spanish. Actually, Spanish was my first language. Even though I was born in Fresno here in the Valley, English is my second language. Spanish, I know fluently. I can speak on the radio. I can do interviews. I can communicate, no problem. And I do that when I'm out in the community, and I need to do a better job at making sure that things are also multilingual. But yes, to answer your question, it's a matter of raising money.
But just to fund the whole website development and all of that as well. Okay, got it.
That's why we're keeping it simple. And I guess my ask would be today, this evening, is if you have a few extra dollars to contribute to my campaign, I would really appreciate your support. If you like what you heard today, any contribution that you make will be helpful.
And we've dropped that link in the chat as well, I think multiple times. Melissa, we're just about at the hour. I want to thank you for taking the time for making an eloquent case for yourself and helping us understand the district and what matters to people there. Really appreciate it. And, we absolutely wish you the best.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so
And
much.
I appreciate all the work that you're doing out here. I want to welcome you to come and learn more and on the ground, not just knocking on doors. If you want to learn more about agriculture, about anything in this region, about or just seeing the struggle of the people here and the challenges that we face. Look, the people that live in this region, we often go unheard, but what happens here is very important, not just across the state and across the nation. It's important for people around the world, because we provide food for everyone around the world, essentially. And so very humble people here. I'm sure you've experienced that already, and I welcome you anytime to come join us and learn some more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a great pleasure to have you here. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.